Welcome to another session of supporting you throughout the literacy process. Sorry, it looks kind of crooked. But anyway, we are in the classroom strategies for interactive learners. And tonight I want to show you a little bit about text coding. And you may have heard of this called like annotation or leaving tracks of your thinking. If you'll go to your Buell text on pages 54 and 55, Buell does a great job of correlating all your classroom strategies to the anchor standards. So throughout your planning, you can use this as a guide. And let me show you text coding. Text coding is right down here at the bottom. You can see right here text coding, and it meets so many standards. Just to help you out, this is reading, writing, speaking and listening, and language. So if you're developing a unit, and in my unit, let's say I'm focusing on anchor standard 1 and 3, writing, we're going to be writing informational text, which is 2. Speaking and listening, I think I'm focused on number 2 in my unit that I develop. And then language, you see language here. These standards would match this strategy. So when you begin to develop your lesson, your text set, we get further into our text set, you want to use this as a friendly guide to help you out. So let me show you a little bit about text coding. With text coding, you're going to turn to pages 210, 211. And I like to do this with my students. You're practically just coding the text. And I do a little bit of my own little spin to it, where I pull, wonderful emails, where I pull my information here that I've read, and I make them do a quick 4-point summary. And so here's my summary. Normally I'll say 4 points, 5 points, depending on the length of the text, and we don't go very long. So all in all, in the summary with a read aloud, you're going to model coding in inner conversations, and you want to do this several times. You want to also guide students how to use coding in inner conversations. Again, you want to do this several times. Students will not get the grasp of text coding the first time you model and guide. You want to make sure that you provide a paraphrase summary, which I'm doing here. I start my students with a 4 to 6 point paraphrase summary. Then I move them to writing summaries, and then we start condensing those summaries. And then you want to actually make sure that students are focused in partner groups. That way they can successfully work with partner groups and then begin to move individually for using text coding. Text coding, you can see that I've done already with this text. And when I ask you to annotate your strategy, this is what I'm actually asking you to do. I'm asking you to text code your strategy. I want you to understand the strategy. One item that I want you to notice, that the strategy of text coding does not take over these 4 pages. What the author Buell has done, number 4, gives you another strategy that is a part of text coding. Number 5, another part or type of text coding. And you continue to here, and you see advantages, which are very important, how it meets the standards. And then these are research strategies, so these are cited from these places. Take a moment or take a little bit of time, it's going to take more than a moment, to try to text code yourself using our reading pages 210 through 213 of your Buell text to understand how to text code. I will say, as a 6th grade teacher in the elementary level, that's one of the expectations that principals and curriculum specialists see, is that you're having some type of coding system and inner conversation with the text. I have used these before, as far as R means reminds me of, V, picture this, that's that visualizing, E is the emotional response, Q is an I wonder, I is I figured out that, the question mark is something you don't understand, and then the exclamation mark is something that's interesting to you. Other authors will use other codes. Just know text coding is a strategy. Buell suggests these text codes. And this will be a great helpful guide to get you started. So to continue practicing text coding, I would take I'm going to model for you, taking one of the statements that you've had, the position statements, and showing you how to text code. So a call to action, this is, to me, this is a visualization point. So it's like a do. You want to do a verb. So we have to do it. And see, I'm just having a conversation with the author or the text, that inner conversation. What we know about adolescent literacy, you can also underline aspects within the text. You can write in the margins, and ways to support teachers in meeting students' needs. Purpose. The purpose of this document is to provide a research-based resource for media, policymakers, and teachers. Oh, well, that's interesting. Not just for teachers. Sorry, it goes dim. Give me just a second. Lovely timing. Thanks. Okay. Not just for teachers. That acknowledges the complexities of reading as a developmental process and addresses the needs of secondary readers and their teachers. So it kind of goes into what is reading. I hope I get a visualization of reading. I'm going to start underlining some things that helps me visualize reading in here. The NCTE Commission on Reading has produced a statement that synthesizes, and so I can go back and click on that statement, that synthesizes current research on reading. So we know that we're looking at something current. Reading is defined as complex, purposeful, social, cognitive process. Oh, that needs to go together. In which readers, I'm going to circle that, simultaneously use their knowledge of spoken and written language, knowledge of the topic, knowledge of their culture to construct meaning. Oh, look, there's not. Reading is not. Well, that's really interesting. I want to know what reading is not. A technical skill. Acquired once and for all in the primary grades. Well, you're right. So I really do have a I want to make this an emotional statement, and all grades, because this hits home with me. All grade levels teach reading. And not just all grade levels, all content areas teach reading. So that means my biology teacher in 12th grade is going to make sure that I know how to read the text that's within biology, to write like a biologist, to read like a biologist, and so on and so forth. A reader's competence continues to grow, so competence continues to grow. Engagement. And so my wonder is, or does that mean action? And to me, it kind of goes back to the word action here, with various types of text, wide range reading for various purposes over a lifetime. Wow. But rather, see, that was kind of confusing to me because they put it with the not. But I see the but, so that is part of it. Part of definition. Now, if you cannot text code write on your text, you can also use sticky notes, which is a great way to text code. And of course, you can use highlighter tape. I know that's out there, the highlighter sticky notes. Those are just an option for you, especially those books that you cannot write in with students. But students normally are assessed via being able to read on a piece of paper and write. Even if they're taking it on a computer, you can teach them how to highlight. Reading something on the computer, you can teach them how to highlight the computer. Because how many times, I wonder, do professionals go out and read items on the computer like on a PDF and have to highlight to make notes? I know I do. So this is just one way to text code, and there are multiple ways. But check out Reading Buell's Text Coding, pages 210, 11, 12, and 13. I hope you've enjoyed this session of the Strategy of the Week, and come back for more in the next module. Thanks.